Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. From Russia with love over to the South Chinese Sea. So what's going on in the South Chinese Sea? So a couple people are nervous about it because you've got two navies partying in the area, the China Navy and the US Navy. And what I put up here is the map. So for those who don't understand, I'm going to give a very much crash course context of the South Chinese Sea territorial disputes. Very brief. This is a very complicated subject. I could do an entire hour and a half on this, and I may if people are interested. But basically what you have is international law says you get so many miles at 3 different zones, which demark from your coast, your island, your land that you own, different types of territorial boundaries that have different international laws applying. And what you see here is the South Chinese Sea. So to orient, you've got China up top here. Here's Hong Kong, Taiwan. You've got the Philippines over on the right. You have Brunei and Indonesia. Vietnam's down here as well. Or excuse me, Vietnam's over here. And all of these countries, right, the projection of those distances, if you map out those distances, they start to get very close to a lot of oil and natural gas that is in this area. So what's happened is China has created artificial islands. You see them here in the Paracel and the Spratly and some of these other ones. What they do is they basically go to an atoll or something that's near the surface and they dump a bunch of rocks in, they pile up some sand, and they get like a little minimum. I mean, some of these things have been built up now that they can have a little base on it or something like that. But these are man-made islands that are constructed solely for the purpose of saying, hey, look, we've got an island, that's our land, therefore our border now extends further out. And you can see how this claimed border of China, and this is what their claim is on the red line, cuts through a whole host of other international borders. And it's because they've created all of these sort of man-made isles in the South China Sea. Now, this has been going on. This isn't a Trump-only thing. This thing has been going on for 10 years now with the struggle. And I think, there was always an attempt to pivot our concern from sort of the global war on terror to a focus on China, especially around the South China Sea. No president has really been able to do that as much, but that doesn't mean the problem wasn't ever growing or serious. It's continued to grow as they build these islands. And what you see right now is that China, to sort of assert its territorial rights, it has a very aggressive policy. If you're a fishing ship, a Vietnamese fishing ship, and you go in the wrong area, even though it's your territory and you can fish there, you'll be confronted by the Chinese Navy. Your boat may be rammed, it may be sideswiped, it may get close. The aircraft, Chinese aircraft, again, this is something militaries play with each other. They kind of do the dueling games of chicken where they try and intercede in airspace and provoke a response. China's been doing that a lot in all of those different countries. And this is, Vietnam is a communist country. It's been a little bit, they've introduced some market reforms, but they're not with China on this. They are very much opposed to China right now because it's all about this oil, natural gas, and fish resources that all the countries sort of want to have. And so this reached a head in 2016 where it finally got, like I said, this has been going on for a long time. In 2016, an international court ruled that China had no legal basis for their claims of sovereignty over the South China Sea. They basically pointed out that their 9 dash line claims, these are the claims they made around those manufactured islands, they're not recognized under international law. And China, of course, said, well, we'll abide by that, and thoughtfully reflected on. No, they didn't. They just continued doing what they're doing. And what's happened recently is I predicted, everyone was wondering what was going to happen with COVID-19 and state actor actions. I predicted Russia would be underwater on this and struggle. And if anyone were going to do anything, it'd be China, because they use their people's war to sort of brutally close down and shut down the pandemic. And, you can argue around the margins, but they're COVID-19, they're largely past it for the most part. And now China's been pushing in all directions. They're pushing in India, testing the territorial boundaries there. They're pushing in Hong Kong with the national security law last week. They're pushing against Taiwan. And they just began pushing in the South China Sea by deploying their Navy for a series of exercises up around those Paracel Islands. Now, this was met with a counter drill by the US Navy. 2 US aircraft carriers are being sent in the region. It's not being disclosed where they are, but they're operating in the South China Sea. And you now have this kind of dance of the sugar plum nuclear armed ferries that are in proximity to each other. Now, this is not, again, people always say, oh, this is World War III. It's not World War III yet. This is a well-orchestrated dance of positioning, one-upsmanship, brinksmanship. China has responded saying they're willing to have talks. They're always willing to have talks. They don't really do much. The U.S. is showing its muscle to say we're going to commit to this region, which I think is kind of important because as China pushes in all these directions, if it's the same strategy Putin employed for a long time before he got bushwhacked by COVID and sort of Turkey, which is he would simply push until someone told him to stop. And if no one told him to stop, he'd keep pushing. And that's how Russia got expanded into all these different regions, Syria, Libya. Now Turkey is pushing back on Russia and pushing back pretty hard. And Russia is being stopped. China is doing the same large strategy of pushing and seeing where people raise an issue. And I think the U.S. responded appropriately with a military action to say, no, the South China Sea is not just going to be something you can get for claiming it. We're going to dispute that. So yes, there's a high amount of risk. You got two nuclear armed countries. You have carrier groups and, not touching each other, but they're in close proximity from a standpoint of the size of the sea. It could be risky, but I have a feeling this is being very carefully orchestrated to basically show face and show commitment without necessarily risking a war. But it is something to keep an eye on, because whenever you've got navies in close proximities, we've had air collisions when they play this game of chicken. A plane runs into another plane, both drop down. That happened right at the beginning of Bush's tenure in 2000 with China. You may have ships colliding. There's been some incidents in the Black Sea with Russia and U.S. navies where you have really close near misses or a partial hit. So it's something to keep an eye on. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the Info Mullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the Info Mullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.